What is up, everybody? My name is Los, and I'm here with a very special guest, my best friend, Roddy. That's
What's
not his
going
real
on?
name. His real name's Mike. My real name is Los. But anyways, I want to talk to you guys about a framework and kind of like a case study and have him on here today because we recently, it's about a year and a half-ish old, started a company called Empire Social. And I used the framework to start this business with him, and it's called the Scale Framework. And I kind of wanted to walk with him, almost like case studying every single step of the framework with you guys, so you guys can start thinking about how to use this framework inside of your business when you want to start a new business, expand, and had a new channel or a new service, etc. In the past year and a half, we went from zero idea, just kind of like, hey, what do we do here, to now doing over $200,000 a month and consistently scaling more and more. And the profit margin on the business is pretty good as well. So carrying about a 35% profit margin. So I wanted to give you those stats so you know that this framework works. And if you guys want to start implementing it, we are going to basically hand deliver it to you today and kind of talk through the whole situation. So the framework is called SCALE, and it stands for Systems, Conversion, Ascension, Leverage, and then Exit. All right, so with the framework, the first thing that we did is figure out the avatar, the person. Roddy and I were, I have another agency that does media buying and helps personal brands scale. One of the things that Roddy got really good at there was doing social media for people. And we saw a gap where people were paying for giveaways and kind of bots and just not the right audience, but Instagram in itself could create a significant amount of extra revenue for people or just even help launch your business. And so that's the avatar that we picked. High income earners that were growing their personal brand and could invest, but didn't want to invest in bots and trash and wanted to leverage their personal brand to make more money, right?
Yeah, really just people who, wanted to obviously grow their online presence, but, really monetize it as well. There's a lot of people that want vanity metrics, but pretty much all of our clients are trying to use this as like a channel for income, So those are, the people that we, only pretty much serve at this point and still have since the day we started. And, that's just, it came obviously from us being in that industry and kind of knowing what was missing. And also just having like a massive network of people that we knew that we can really kind of like, implement this type of a service to, just because there was a massive amount of people that were looking for it and weren't getting like quality results. And, I had really done this by helping you first, so
right.
That's kind of when we figured out these are the type of people we wanted to work with and really build this business with.
Okay, so after we got the systems down, we went to conversion, and conversion really doesn't just mean closing people, but inside of conversion is kind of like how we're going to work with people, like what's the funnel going to be, right? And we didn't have a lot of revenue to start this business because it was a brand new business. And so we said, okay, let's kind of drink our own Kool-Aid and use some revenue to grow our Instagrams so we can be like, hey, listen, we're the people doing this and it's working for us. So we invested into Instagram, growing our pages, and then having conversations with people by making content inside of Instagram that brought people into our DMs. And then from our DMs, we would take that to phone calls. And then in phone calls, we were closing them. So that is kind of like the C inside of the conversion, right? Now you have your strategy, and then you know how you're going to convert people, whether it's a funnel, whether it's paid ads, whether it's organic. There's a lot of different channels. A lot of people think that initially you're just going to, hey, let's run a funnel and do Facebook, but we didn't have anything tested. And so we wanted to test with something that we were actively selling as well. So it would make more sense for people to be like, well, they're actually doing it and it works. I'm actually a paying client now, blah, 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 right?
Yeah, no, 100%. That was like, when I was taking sales calls and with people that were primarily trying to work with us too, they were like, you don't have a huge Instagram account. I was like, oh shit, you're right. I probably should invest into my page and really start actually like just showing that I'm also doing this on a monthly basis for myself.
And it still works. If you guys are interested in growing your Instagram, a lot of people are like, oh, there's no engagement. That is true. But the right audience, investing in growing the right audience, it's not about having 1 million followers anymore in that platform. It's about having an extra 10,000 that you can actually monetize. An extra 10,000, imagine if you can get 100 people from that 10,000 throughout even the course of a year, and they're paying you $1,000, you can make $100,000.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think that, and you touched on this on the conversion side of things too, with the content is like, it's the most important part of like this whole process, because the way that we're growing pages is primarily focused on the content that's being posted on your page. So, if you're not putting time into your Instagram page, then you're not actually serious about it. You know what I mean? Like the amount of content and time it takes to put out this content, all the research and everything like that is important. You know, you're essentially, you know, you're not building another business. I mean, essentially you are, but it's more of a stream of income in order for people to actually buy from you, right? Like this isn't paid traffic. You're really putting content out in front of people and building a brand. So you got to nurture them a lot.
Right.
You know, there needs to be like a lot of trust before they even think like, okay, cool, I'm going to work with this guy.
So for some people that want to kind of like figure that out and they're using Instagram, what would you say is like a good system for them to, you know, let's say they invest and they're like, hey, I got a few thousand people into my new Insta, or even this works with Facebook communities and stuff now too. What makes sense to do as far as like content, Instagram stories, reels and all that?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, really expanding on the amount of content inventory that you have is important, right? Like a lot of people aren't good at taking photos, you know, we aren't that great at taking photos.
I hate taking photos. I look like a weirdo.
Yeah, and like if you post a photo every single day, you know, you're gonna run out of that content inventory. So what we've done is like we've kind of found like 3 to 4 different styles of content that we can like, you know, change up depending on the media kit of that brand or this person specific like personal branding, you know, logos or branding behind it. But, you know, as long as you're using like, you know, photos, putting out a lot of good copy that resonates with that photo, right? The beautiful thing about photos is you can write whatever the hell you want about it. You know, you can make up a story, tell a story, as long as it adds value in some capacity. Like the goal should always be to just keep building that trust and having the same conversation with people over and over again. Then you have like your viral content, which is like sometimes like either a Twitter looking post. Those posts just always do well. Like I'm just waiting for I'm not waiting for the day that they're not going to work anymore, but they just don't stop working. They just crush at all point. They never go away. You know, and then you have like, you know, your viral content, which could be like more, maybe they're photos of you or just like a blank canvas with like some quotes on it or something, but you can use carousels. Those do really well. Anything that adds retention, right? Everyone's retention on Instagram is so short. People are like scrolling through their phone mindlessly, right? Like the key is to keep them on the content for as long as possible. You know, at least 60 seconds. If you can get them on for 60 whole seconds, your content will do really well. If it's a carousel, the longer that people are scrolling through your carousels, that's going to really help expand the amount of reach that you're getting. You know, that's why carousels do well, just because people look at the first 2 carousels, they're going to look at the last like 3, right? Just like they want to see what it is at the end, which typically you can create like a CTA or something to interact with you in some capacity. And then IG Reels. I didn't really know how those were going to perform at first. Obviously, Instagram really wanted people to use them, so the amount of reach that you're getting with IG Reels is just insane. But the only difference with IG Reels and the other content styles that I was talking about is that it's a little bit harder to attribute like where traffic is coming from, how those content pieces are performing, except for just looking at your overall engagement on those.
Right.
But they're super important to use. I think if you are going to use video content, like, you know, quick and easy snippets of value that people can implement into their day like right away is what they want. You know, people aren't trying to like watch a 10 to 20 minute long video on Instagram. People would go to that for YouTube, right? So like quick snippets of value that you can just give to people, that's what they want. They want something they can take, retain, implement, good to go. Like that's the type of value that you can provide. And, you know, anything that you do, like you have a giant presentation that was 40 minutes long, you can break those down to micro content pieces for reels, carousels, you know, even taking screenshots from that for photos and stuff like that. Just like any way that you can maximize the amount of inventory that you have to really expand on the value that you can provide will get you more conversions and leads and conversations for sales.
Right. So then we go to the A, right? And A stands for ascension, right? And ascension basically is really a focus on lifetime value and your average order value. So we had a good average order value, but we didn't have anything else to ascend people to. And so we sat down and said, okay, what makes the most sense? What's good for speed and automation for these people? And so we were getting them growth, but their pages sucked because no one was managing it. So in Ascension, we decided the first thing we were going to do is ascend people into like, hey, if you do this, the next logical step here is that we manage your page. And then the third Ascension piece that we have is basically if you want to become a celebrity and really grow in your authority, we can get articles and publications and things like that.
Yeah.
And then the fourth outside of that is Roddy's launching a mastermind now for people that are like, all right, now we got to take the traffic, sales, conversions, and kind of like go into the next phase, right?
Yeah, no, 100%. And, you know, having like more services is like definitely was like the key to like really us scaling because, you know, growth is, growth, it still works. It's still really great, but like at scale, like you can't, it's so hard to grow all these people's accounts and deliver it in the time frame that you need to in order to keep like your recurring income like clean without like your P&Ls all fucked up. You know, so like management was great because now we were actually in control of the content being posted on their page. and conversions got a lot quicker. So growth was actually faster, delivery was faster. We were able to take on more clients from that, being in control of their account. And for the most part, nobody actually wants to post themselves, especially our clientele. Like, they don't have time if they're running
Real businesses.
five multi-million-dollar businesses. They don't have time to run their Instagram accounts. So the beautiful thing of that is, was a service that was already in demand. We just had to build it out real quick. It was very simple. And then, PR was a big one, just because that was something that I was getting so many questions on. People wanted to get verified, or people just wanted to get at least different articles or press that they can use for like SEO traffic or website traffic. And, we didn't have that in-house originally, and it kind of sucked, right? I had to hand people over to like third-party agencies that just didn't really treat our clients the way that we treated them.
Right.
So building that out was pretty massive. And, just seeing what it took and all the systems in that service itself was really cool. But yeah, that's been a massive help for us. So just, building more and more services that are, aligned with what you guys are trying to sell is definitely the key. And then the mastermind is obviously just a place where we can kind of have like more high-level conversations with some of the clients or their friends that don't necessarily need the help because they're doing it themselves, but they just want to know more information of like how they can do what they're doing now but better.
Yeah, and listen, this works in e-commerce. You've got to figure out your average order value. Then how much can you get in recurring, subscription, upsells, different products? We've got a client that sells cards, like it's a card game, and the upsell, I don't think it's $50 for the card game, right? The upsell is a community that's $6,000. It's a mindset mastermind because it's a card game for people with like expanding their mindset. And you would never think that would work, but you've got to try and test out. So that increases their lifetime value and average order value so much they can afford to spend so much more and really build a big brand. So this works from anywhere from services, personal brands, all the way to e-commerce. Then we're going to go with what's next is leverage, right? So now we've got everything rolling. It's humming. We're making money. Things are looking good. But then what's going on is like Roddy has no time. And so he can only fulfill X amount of things. He doesn't have time anymore to start thinking through like, hey, what's next? What do I need to make for content? What do I need to do for lead generation? He's really just in the day-to-day and kind of like stuck in fires, which is where the majority of you sometimes end up being. And so leverage really speaks to teams. So we had to look around and say, okay, what do we need? We need an assistant for starters. We need someone to go ahead and write copy. We need someone to create all the creatives, and slowly started building a team and then expanding on more opportunities, because as you see inside of like the Ascension side as well, we're always looking into what the person needs so we can consistently serve them with something that they're going to go buy somewhere else anyways, and we're already serving them with that one thing. Now we can help them do more. And then we just have to implement the right team and the right structure for the team for them to do their job correctly like we do it, and consistently be happy, scaling, and delivering results. So talk a little bit about teams.
Yeah, like that was the that was the biggest mindset shift for me. Like, it's, building a team is more than just like hiring somebody. It's like a lot of times people who own businesses, like the thought of like someone else coming in and fulfilling what they were doing is so scary to them, because they don't believe that somebody cares about their business more than they do, or just as much as they do, or that they can do the same quality of work. And for being transparent, nobody cares about your business more than you do.
For sure.
Yeah, 100%. That's something that you have to get over. But you can for sure nurture people and build a team that can do the same quality of fulfillment. Now at this point, I had a conversation with one of my teammates the other day, and, he basically proved me wrong on a concept for a content piece I was going out. And I was like, and I was so stoked to be wrong. I was like, oh, wow, that's actually super logical and really smart. Yeah, no, you should for sure post it. And he's like, are you sure? And I was like, no, 100%. You just shut me up. So, like really finding the people though, that, that's a little difficult. Not everyone is going to be like a perfect fit, right away for your business. The biggest thing for me too was finding someone that had like the knowledge and really the desire to like actually learn more. Like my first hire is Steph, and who's an actual badass. Like, she manages probably 7-8 accounts herself, and then she oversees the rest of the team's fulfillment on management. And that takes a lot of work, but she's built a really good system. And I think like figuring out like every time you onboard someone, right? Like, what do you really like? Like, what's something that you see yourself doing, right? Because obviously if somebody applies for a job, sometimes they just need the money and they just might not be into it, right? But if they're not actually like involved or excited about what they're doing, then it's going to show and reflect in their, their work, because eventually 100%. They'll get burnt out and they're going to be like, I fucking hate this.
Right.
So that the biggest thing for me was like when I had somebody who I wanted to hire, I would identify like what really gets them excited about working on a day-to-day basis and what the delivery is on those things. For like Steph, she is really excited to kind of help personal brands, a lot of people in the fitness space as well. So I give her a lot of the fitness clients, right? Nick is a really, really good content creator, and he's super creative. He's funny. He does stand-up comedy on the weekends. So for him, we have a couple of he really likes to focus on the brands, right? Like the products, the people that are selling products through Instagram, because he has a lot of creative freedom there. There's less personal branded messaging and more freedom for him to create content that he knows that he can create from scratch from the top of his head. And that's where his superpower is, right? So it's identifying what people are into and what they specifically want to do with inside of social media on my team, and then delegating those work to them so that they can actually fulfill it and just be excited consistently on what they're doing. And obviously there's a couple of clients that some of my teammates have, and they're not super stoked, but the fact is that a little bit more than half or even half of what they're doing is what they love, and that's what keeps them stoked, that's what keeps them dialed in. And that's what's really helped me build my business, because without having those teammates, I wouldn't be able to take more calls, take more sales calls, bring on more clients. And now I have an assistant who helps with all the invoicing and all the BS admin stuff that I was doing. Now she's handling all that, and she's even created a better process than I did. Steph, I onboarded her, and she created all sorts of different template styles for content pieces that we can replicate across a bunch of accounts that don't necessarily look the same at all, but they are going to work based off of research and the aesthetic of those things.
Right.
And she created that whole system herself. Then she got into Monday, and she got all the other social media managers to follow a Monday board so that they had ETAs on delivery for fulfillment. And then, now we have a couple of guys that are helping us with the setting side, and they're basically head of sales. And now that setter trains more setters to bring on for our clients, so that if they don't have a sales or a system in the back end, that we can kind of bring that in as another service for us to do.
Right.
So, it's if you're not hiring people, you're not bringing people in-house, you're just really holding yourself back from scaling your business. You're never going to move, or you're going to move and you're just going to lose all sorts of happiness that actually you have outside of work, just because we're not robots. We like to do shit on the weekends too, so it's fuck.
For sure. And so the final one is exit. And so this is where people kind of get a lot of it wrong. I think people think of exit I'm going to go sell this company, or they think I got to replace myself immediately. You should not replace yourself immediately. Exit really means, how do you outsource yourself and how do you move away? So the reality is, like I said, a lot of people just want to get rid of a business, but I think you need to turn your active assets into passive assets. And so the question is, how do you slowly start removing yourself so you can go build more, and then that becomes an asset, right? When this business, for example, starts to do $500,000 a month, and Roddy's not involved that much because he's doing other things, that business is going to pay him a salary and a distribution, right? And he can keep that business for the rest of his life. And so now that business turned from being an active, I'm in it, to a passive asset that he can say, hey, this makes me XYZ yearly. I got this other thing that makes me XYZ. And it's really, that's how you invested your time, your energy, your money. At some point you could sell it. You've got to kind of really build big agencies for the point to selling it. But yeah. I believe you can build agencies and kind of use them as passive income for a very, very, very long time. I mean, I've had agencies for a decade and they're still here, and so I definitely think that they're
everybody we talk to is the first thing they do is a fucking
it's a great business, right? And if you keep going with it, it's not going to go away. So that's how you have to think of on an exit. Now that you've leveraged your team, where are you going to go? What is the path? How are you going to start replacing your everyday tasks? And how are you slowly going to start replacing someone with the mindset of hey, we're focused on growth. We're focused on team. We're focused on culture. We're focused on lead generation. So in an overview, guys, scale, again, is the system that you need, the funnel, the model, the offer that you're going to sell out. Then it's conversion. How are we going to create a sense of converting people? How are we going to create content to bring these people in? Then ascension. How are we going to create upsells, and how are we going to create downsells and side sells or new divisions to get more money, more lifetime value, so we can spend money on the first two? And then leverage. How are we going to build the right team? Because the team is what's going to actually help us scale this business completely. And then exit. How do I remove myself in a way where this becomes a passive asset for me in due time? That's the last thing, because it's the last thing you should be focused on by far. Anything else to add?
No. I mean, you basically said everything right there.
I think we're wearing the same hat.
We are. I was going to say we didn't wear the same outfits today, but we definitely on a daily basis wear the same hat for sure. This is my favorite hat.
It's because we buy each other clothes. But that's a story for another day. So guys, if this was helpful, please subscribe, join the notifications, drop us a comment, and drop us a follow at Los Hustle, at Mike_Roddy.
Yep.
Hopefully soon it's at Roddy. But in the meantime, go through all that trouble to follow him, or just follow Los Hustle. Just one word. Boom. Got you. So that's it for me, guys. That's it for Roddy. We'll see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.